let's get started on building the inside of our pages in our book. So I like to start off, I like to put a pocket here on the inside left corner, or inside left cover. So just to remind you, the covers themselves are 6.5 inches wide by 8 inches tall. So I'm going to put 2 pockets on mine. If you want to add a third, it's your book. You can do whatever you want. But so we need 2 pieces of our cardstock and 3.5 cut at 3.5 by 7.5. Actually, 1 piece at 3.5 by 7.5, and the second piece is going to be 4.5 by 7.5. So this is going to be the bottom pocket, or what lines up at the bottom of our cover. So what we want to do is put this piece in our scoreboard on the short side. So the 4.5 is up on the top right of your scoreboard, and we're going to score at 1/2 inch on one side, and then we're going to rotate it so that the 7.5 is in the top right. We're going to score at 1/2 inch, rotate it back again, and then score it again at 1/2 inch. So when I say we're going to score at 1/2 inch on 3 sides of the paper, that's 2 short sides and 1 long side. Okay, so then what we're going to do is fold along those score lines. Give it a really nice crease. Do the same on both of the shorter sides. Okay, I like to use score tape when I'm doing videos, just for the ease of it, but I would normally do this with wet glue. So then what we want to do, if you remember, like when we were working on the cover, when we scored, the lines they dissect each other. They make this little square, so you have this rectangle here, and then the little square in the corner. We're going to go ahead and cut that little square away, but we want to cut it on an angle. Okay, we're going to do that on both sides. So we're just cutting away that corner, and then we're going to miter these corners, or angle these corners. Just makes it easier for when you slide something into the pocket, it doesn't catch on the corner of the tag or whatever it is that you're adding in. So then what I like to do is remove my score tape, the backing, sorry, on my score tape on the 2 sides, and I like to bring the bottom up. And you can see it kind of makes that little bit of a pocket. It's going to give me a little bit of a gusset. And then once I'm ready to put it into my book, bring my left cover over, and then remove that last piece of score tape, or add your glue to the bottom, whatever you decided to do. Try to straighten this up. And then this is my leftmost corner of my book. I like to line that up as close as I possibly can. And then definitely try not to get past that, that channel there where your book folds, so that nothing catches. Okay, and then give it a good burnish, and now you have a pocket. It probably went a little over too far there, but should be okay. So you see now we have a pocket, a nice pocket. So now we have the second piece that's going to create our second pocket. Now you can do this however you choose. So I cut this to 3.5 inches by 7.5, and scored it at 1/2 inch on each side. Now you can line the pockets up. You could have a little bit of a pocket there, but what I like to do is, let me show you, I like to, on my scoreboard, so if my pocket is 6.5 inches wide, once I fold the tabs back, so my pocket is 6.5 inches wide, I want to come in about 1 inch and then just put a little mark. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here. You can see, oh, maybe you can't see, sorry. So I also have a ruler that comes down along the left side. I don't use this very often, but I'm also going to put a mark right there at the 1 inch, just so that I can see it. And then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to come down or come up 1 inch, put a little mark, and if it's not exact, it's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. And then, so you see I have that mark right there and that little mark right there, and I'm just going to cut it on an angle. Okay, and I'm going to do the same here. I have this little mark, whoops, this little mark, and that, well, actually more than a little mark, and I'm going to trim, and I'm left with something that looks like that. So I'm going to bring my book back, and then what I do is I would like to, my tab, I'm going to go ahead and just square that off. I don't want anything, any extra paper, any extra bulk getting in the way of the pocket. So let's just do a dry run really quickly and just slide that in there. So you see, now I have much more space right here. For that'll be the third pocket. Like that pocket will go from the top of the book to the bottom of the book. This one, instead of it stopping right here, because I'm not going to put adhesive there, it's going to come all the way down to the bottom of the book also. Okay, so let's hope that makes sense. I'm going to take my score tape off. Then I also, what I forgot to do is actually just miter those corners or those edges. Fold my flaps in and just line everything up. Stick her down. Pretty easy, right? Let me see if I can find a big piece of paper. So here, what I was mentioning, that goes all the way to the bottom. And then this one, it comes all the way down to here. So you can have some nice big tags. I like to put, oh no, my paper is folded in there. Oh no. Ah, why does this always happen to me? There we go. See, I had a tag in there. Okay, anyway. Resetting. Oh, anyhow. I like to do some folded booklets, and I like to keep them in my book, and in the front cover. Okay, so we got that one. So I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to have the shorter cover on the outside here. So what I want to do is put some seam binding. I'm going to use seam binding instead of magnets, because I think people have more access to maybe ribbons and seam binding. I'm going to use white. I'm not going to say, I'm not 100% sure what paper line I'm using. I think I'm using the Masquerade. Excuse me, from Country Craft Creations. So white actually will go perfectly. So I know I give way too much. I make sure I have way too much seam binding, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I'm going to go ahead with white, and I am going to put a couple pieces of score tape on the end. to kind of hold it before you want to add this before you put your pattern paper on the outside of your book. Ask me how I know. So I like to make sure I have at least an inch or so it doesn't get pulled away. Okay, so if my book is 8 inches, I'm going to want to put this right in the middle or as close to the middle as I can get it. So I'm thinking, let me make sure I have the right cover. Yes. So we'll put this at about 4 inches-ish, give or take. Let's take the other one. Place that around the back. Right around the 4-inch line. I know you can't see it, but you'll just have to trust me, it's there. Okay, so then it will wrap around like this, and you could tie it right here. I'm just not going to tie it because I don't want to get it too wrinkly. Okay, so our seam binding is on. I didn't want to forget to do that. All right, so we are going to have over here, we're going to have a really fun waterfall. And we're going to actually push up the waterfall, and it's going to flap up towards the top of the book. And if I'm lucky, this will work out. So we might as well just do that now. So there's a lot of pieces, well, not a lot of pieces that you need, but we're going to need quite a few. Let's see. Put those away. These are, okay, these are the waterfall pieces. I'm going to set the book aside for now because we don't need it for a couple of minutes. Just get that out of our way. So we are going to start off with one piece of your solid color cardstock. It's going to be 6 1/4 by 8 3/8. We want another piece that is 6 1/4 by 8. Then we will need 6, if you decide you want to use 6 waterfall flaps, you're going to want 6 of those, obviously. And the dimension is 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, and we'll go over the scoring in a minute. Then we're going to need what I'm calling the waterfall belt, or belly band, yeah, belt, and that is 2 by 12. And just to be safe, I think we're going to also need another piece that is 2 by 2, and I'll show you what we're going to do with those in a second. So let's start off by talking about what you need to score. Now this piece is not going to be seen. This is going to be underneath the waterfall. So again, this is 6 1/4 by 8 3/8. So you're going to put this into your scoreboard and score at 1/2 inch. Oh, I'm sorry, the 8 3/8 inch is on the top right. Okay, so you're going to score 1/2 inch, rotate it, and score it 1/2 inch. And then fold and burnish along those score lines. Okay. Then we're going to want another, take your 6 1/4 by 8 inch piece. Along the 8 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. And then you're going to score it at 1/2 inch for each waterfall flap that you made. So because I have 6 waterfall flaps, I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch, 1, 1 1/2. Where'd it go? See, I swear, camera turns on and I turn stupid. So let's start over. So we're on with the 8 inch side in the top right of your scoreboard. Score at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/2. 2, 2 1/2, 3, and 3 1/2. Okay, and then you're going to want to fold and crease each one of those score lines. You're going to fold it away from you and crease it. Okay? So that should leave you with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if you want to call them little gussets. Okay? Then we are going to take, we have 6 of these pieces that are 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. What you want to do is take each one of them, okay, on the 4 3/4 inch side. So this is the short side, right, because it's shorter over here than it is here. Score at 1/2 of an inch for each one of them. So you're going to do that 6 times. Then you're going to fold it over, fold along your score line, and crease it. Give it a really good crease. Okay, so let's start with that. So we're going to, again, with the 4 3/4 inch side on the top right of your scoreboard, you're going to score it at 1/2 of an inch. And you're going to do that for all 6 of your waterfall flaps. Okay, then you're going to fold on your score line and then crease. Okay, so you do that 6 times. I know I've said that twice already, sorry. All right, so once you get to that point, I'm starting to get a little nervous because this is the hard part. I'm going to actually move this out of the way, bring our book back in. So this is actually going on the inside, the center of the book. So we're going to start off by taking your 6 1/4 by 8 3/8 inch piece. All right, we're going to remove the adhesive. You can go ahead and add your liquid adhesive. I'm going to stand for this one. So I want to be sure and line it up. So this is the opposite side. So essentially we're going to center it in our book. Okay, we're going to do that. We're going to center it on the back cover in between these two joints here. Do it as best you can. Give yourself a little bit of space. And if it's crooked, it's crooked. Anyway, so stick it down and burnish. Okay? Essentially what we're doing is we're creating a track for this movable waterfall. I don't know what else to call it, but all right, so let's remove this piece. Now you don't want this to be too tight, but you don't want it to be floppy loose either. So just go ahead and stick it back down. So you should be able to get, for instance, your ruler should go through. You should be able to get the idea. Okay. That actually helps. Let's make sure that that has a really good stick down there on the bottom and on the top. All right, exciting stuff, right? So next, what we want to do is the same thing with your 6 1/4 by 8. Remember we made those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We made those 7 score lines. We're going to take the score tape or add your glue to that very first flap. I'm going to turn mine upside down. I find it easier to line up when it's right here in front of me. So you see I have the line of this, the track. Like I said, it's called the waterfall track. I'm just going to line the very edge. So I folded my flap over and I have my adhesive on it. I'm going to take the very edge of that flap and I'm just going to line it right up with the edge of this track as best as I can get it. Cross your fingers. There we go. Okay. See, so it kind of looks like a little floppy, but again, mine is upside down. Okay, then what we want to do is take each one of our 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. Remember, we scored it at 1/2 inch and we folded and creased it. We're going to take each one of these and we're going to add them to each one of these little gusset channel 1/2 inches we have here. Okay, so let me show you. I'll add it and then I'll show you. So we're going to add it just like you would a normal waterfall. Try to keep it as straight on the sides as you can. So you see I actually add, it's kind of hard to see with black, but here's where the first flap ends. Okay. So that's the first one. We're going to move down. If it makes it easier for you, you can number these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because they're going to get covered up anyway. Okay, there's number 2. So again, I just like to bump it right up against the one before it. Try to line it up on the sides. There's number 2. Actually, let me do that for you. Where's my pencil? Okay, so that was number 1. That was number 2. This will be upside down, but that's 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so this is my next one. Again, I am working upside down, so you don't get confused. So that's 3. I hope this works. I think this is how I did it. Okay. 4. Here's number 5. Oops. I mean, it kind of looks more difficult than it really is. And number 6. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and fold them all back down. Give them one final crease. Okay, so there we have what looks just like a normal waterfall, right? Okay, but if I did it right, ooh, it's gonna flap. Did you see it? Did you see it? I know, I'm such a child. I'm sorry, but it just makes me so happy. Okay, so then what we need to do, because it's all just kind of flopping around, you know, like it'll all just, right? We need to put, if you remember, I put a track under here. Okay, so now what we need to do is take this, I'm calling it a waterfall belt. It is 2 inches by 12 inches. And if you remember, we made the little track earlier. So this is just going to slide along, excuse me, this track. And so what you want to do is just kind of put it, you know, move your waterfall flaps out of the way. And so try to center it so you have an equal piece of paper on either side. Now you don't want to make these too tight, but you don't want them to be too loose either. So just go ahead and fold those over. Okay, and then take your other piece that is 2 by 2. And we're just going to use that to connect these together. It's not going to be pretty, it doesn't matter, it's not going to be seen. So I just put a little bit of glue here. Oops. And of course it spit everywhere. Oh, this is not my day. And then we're going to put a little bit of glue on each edge here on either side. Okay, we're just going to connect these two together. And just make sure there's nothing, you know, it's not glued down anywhere by mistake. It needs to float, move freely. For some reason, mine just wants to keep getting stuck. Maybe I did it too tightly. I don't know. Okay. Oops. That explains that. All right. So then what I'm going to do is actually take a little piece of paper, or we could use, what should we use? Let's use some seam binding. I have some black seam binding here. I have some really nice dark navy blue. I think I'm going to go with the blue. Ready. I don't know what the official color is, the name of the color. I'm sure Tammy could tell you. I know it's a dark navy. It's a beautiful dark blue. All right, so put a little bit of seam binding on the underneath. I mean, a little bit of score tape on one side or on each of the sides. Just make sure you get a good stick on that. Then I'm going to try to find the center here. No big deal if it's, stick that down. I'm just making a little pull tab. Okay, so it just makes it easier to pull. Keep it, let me help it slide. Okay, and then what we're going to do is, again, we have all these flappy doodle thingamajigs. We're going to actually take the very last one. We're going to slide it inside that pull tab. And I'll show you in 1 second. See, it's going to take a minute for the mechanism. See what it does? So it takes a minute for it all to lay flat. But what we're going to do now is just take a little bit of glue. I had to actually do a little bit of surgery. I had to stop the video. I'm going to put some glue here, a little bit here. And then bring that belt or belly band, whatever you want to call it, down to the end, just so that it glues inside there, so that it all moves as one piece along that track. And a little bit of glue. Okay, I'm going to put a little more, squeeze a little more. This is going to get covered with pattern paper, so you'll never see this piece, this belly band or this belt piece. Okay, so that is, push it up, ta-da, and then you pull it back down. Once you do this the first time, you're going to sit there and do it for days. I still have fun with it. Okay, so you can at this point decide, do you want to do a magnet closure? You know, a typical waterfall magnet closure where you have usually just, you know, a piece of cardstock. I usually do, for this one it was going to be 1.5 inches by 5 3/4 inches, or you can decide, you know, you would actually score it at 1/2 inch and have the magnet come and hold the waterfall closed, or you can do seam binding. I think I might do seam binding on this one. I'm kind of in the seam binding mood, so I'm going to pull out this black seam binding. This is all I have left, is this just this little bit. I am going to fold it in half. Okay, and you all see that. You all get the idea what fold in half means. Then I'm going to put some score tape on the back of one side, about an inch or so, maybe 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to come up under here. Was the 6.5 inches wide, so that's going to be that'll be the bottom. Hopefully it doesn't, there'll be a piece of pattern paper over it so it won't interfere with the slider thing. All right. Take another piece of score tape. And again, you could, like I said, you can use ribbon, you can use seam binding, you can use twine, like jute. Just be cognizant of, just be aware of how thick, you know, whatever closure you're using, just be careful how thick it is so that your book doesn't get, you know, the pages inside your book don't get wonky. Okay. So I'm just going to tie that loosely for now. Let's keep that out of our way. All right. Okay, so then next, we'll come over to the side, since we've been on the left side the whole time. Now what we have, because my book is going to close like this, right, I don't want to put any pockets or any bulk on the right inside cover, right, because it's going to go like this to close. So what I'm going to do is just cover that with pattern paper, make it pretty. You could probably put, you know, just a photo and maybe a piece of ephemera or something on here, but I'll show you that in a minute. But inside the spines, the two spines we have here, they're 1.5 inches thick. There's plenty of space here for some flaps. So we are going to do left side flaps and right side flap. I'll do the right side first. It's a little more involved. So at this point you can stop and put down your pattern paper. Or, you know, you can cover your spines if you want pattern paper, or you can just leave it black. You don't have to cover it. I like to cover it. But I'm not going to do that at this point. I will do that when I put the spines in, or the flaps in, after I put the flaps in. So what we're doing is we're making a pocket, like a pocket flap with some other flaps. So we're going to want to take a piece of your cardstock. Again, you can use black, because we've used black all throughout, or you can change the color up to whatever to match your paper collection. So 6.5 by 7. Then you're going to want another one that's 5.5 by 6. You're going to want one that is 6 by 6. And then another one that is 5 by 6. Okay, so we'll just start with the big one since I already did it. So for the 5 by 6, you want to put this in your scoreboard. Let's bring that back in. Put this in your scoreboard on the 7-inch side. Oops. Line it up correctly, Anne-Marie. Okay, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Rotate it to the 6.5 inch side. Score 1/2 inch. Rotate it again back to 7 inches and score 1/2 inch. So we are scoring at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Okay. Then, oops. Well, we'll set the 6 by 6 aside. Then we're going to take our 5.5 by 6 inch piece, and you're going to put it in your scoreboard with on the 5.5 inch side on the top right. And then I keep misplacing my, oh, here it is. On the 5.5 inch side, we're going to score it at 1/2 inch. Okay. And then we have the 5 by 6. We are going to score at 1/2 inch on the 5 inch side. And again, don't have to scramble to write all this down. There will be a cutting guide that's in the description. So no need to rush and try to figure it out. All right, so we're going to go back to this 6.5 by 7 inch piece. So we essentially, remember how we made pockets before? We're kind of almost doing the same thing. We're going to fold and score on actually all three. Sorry, we're going to fold and crease on all three of those sides that we scored, okay? And then we're going to actually fold the flaps inward so they look like that. We're going to cut out the bulk there on the corner, so you want it to look like this, just like we made that pocket, and then we're going to actually just tab the corners or angle the corners at the top, okay? So bring those two flaps inwards, and then what we're going to do is take that 6 by 6 piece of cardstock that we had, and we are just going to cover, we're going to basically close up the pocket like that, but we're going to do it straight. Okay, so you'll notice that we don't have anything here for it to adhere to. This is going to actually adhere to the spine of the book. So what we'll do is when we come back after we put these two sides on, we will run a bead of glue along this edge just to kind of close up the pocket. So what I like to do is put this in my scoreboard. It's easier to line up so that you know your edge to edge, and then line up your bottom left corner, and I kind of just run my finger as like a finger chaser. Okay, and then we're going to turn this around. If you have another way you like to do it, just go ahead and do whatever works best for you. I'm just going to close up that pocket. Sometimes you'll have hangover. Looks pretty, let's see, I feel a little bit of glue right there. Just take your bone folder, crease that, and I feel like I have the littlest bit of hangover there. I'm going to take the big scissors and just see if I can't. Yep. Gonzo. Okay, that was causing some issues there. All right, so like I said, now we have essentially a sleeve, right? So what we're going to want to do before we glue it, so we're going to have two flaps here. So we're going to have, let's take our 5.5 by 6. We scored it 1/2 inch on one side. Let's put some score tape or some wet glue. Let's see. We can do this one of two ways. Before we put any adhesive on this flap, let's just fold it along the score line and crease it or burnish. Okay, so we can do it one of two ways. You can either take your tab that you just created. Actually, let's just trim the edges of that flap and angle those edges. So this is going to be what sticks to your spine on your left-hand side. So I would suggest you put your score tape or your adhesive on the inside of the flap, slide it in there, and put it in that way. Okay, or you can line it up on top, just like that, with the edge of the score line at the edge of the pocket, however you choose to do it. I am going to put my score tape on the inside because it just kind of cleans that off, or finishes it off nicely on the edge. Okay. All right, we are almost done. So again, I'm just going to turn it sideways so I can actually see better. Line it up and stick it down. So it is actually inside. See how it cleans up the, it's hard to see with black paper. Excuse me, but it just cleans up the edge of the paper. The pocket, sorry. So now you have an open pocket over here, and it's still actually still a sleeve. You have a flap, and we had this 5x6 piece of paper that we scored on at 1/2 inch. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to fold on the score line, add some score tape to the flap. I'm going to do it again on the inside of my flap. I'm going to angle the edges, or angle the corners, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, and then again, just slide the tab in there. Try not to go over your score line. Get it as close as you can, and then line everything up. If it gets out of whack, no longer straight, just train it, tell it what it needs to do. Okay, so now you have, well, first we need to put down a bead of glue inside there to seal up the pocket. You could keep it open if you wanted to. That is way too much glue and is going to squirt everywhere. Now I knew better, but I still did it. It may impact the inside of my pocket. We'll see. Did I just do what I think I just did? Oh, I thought I sealed the entire thing. Okay, so just making sure. There, we have our flappy page. Okay, you can either put the short one on the outside or on the inside. Again, we can use a magnet to hold it closed. You can use a ribbon. You can use seam binding. If you know how to make one of those turn tabs, you can do a turn tab. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, so I'm just going to leave it flat for now. So what I'm going to do, I just did that upside down. Okay, crazy. I forgot this was the right side flap. Anyway. Let's see. Oh, for Pete's sake. I guess I could put it that way. Okay, so we have our tab. I just did that whole thing thinking I was going to put it on the left hand side. This is actually the right side flap. So I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to put it this way. So if you recall, we have this 1.5 inches here. So I am just going to remove the backer of my score tape. And you can decide where you want this. You can decide if you want it at the top, or if you want it in the middle of this spine. I'm going to actually line mine up, try to get it as close to the middle as I can without going over that. Without going over the ditch where the joint of the cover in the spine is. So it'll actually, so when you close it, it's going to look, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, so it's going to look something like that. Let's see if my light, oops, nope. Excuse me, once we get the pattern paper on, you'll be able to see better. But as you can see, so here's the flap, the pocket is in the back. It's a nice finished pocket. Okay, so let's just give that a good crease so that everything sticks, everything works properly. And I will cover that up with a 3/8 inch piece of pattern paper, and then I will also do the same over here. Or I might just leave it black. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So next we have the right-hand side. So see, this comes together pretty quickly. The hardest part is probably the waterfall, and it's really not that horrible. It's actually really fun, but yeah. So, okay, so for the left side flaps, we're going to make 2 little pockets, similar to what we just did here. I don't know, maybe I will, I don't know, we'll see what I do. I'm not sure what closure I want to do. So, you can see what I made is a left flap pocket. That's what I call a flap pocket. So, you'll want 2 pieces of your cardstock that are 4.5 by 6, okay? And then you're going to want 2 pieces that are 5 by 7. If you want to put 2 pockets over here, you might only want to do 1. That is completely up to you. I just thought 2 would be fun. So set your book aside for now. Okay, so you want to take one of your 5 by 7s. Oh, so I can show you. So this is your 5 by 7. This is your 4.5 by 6. And when you put them together, this is what they make. Okay? All right, so we're going to, just as if we were making a pocket page, you're going to put it in your scoreboard, your 5 by 7 in your scoreboard, and you're going to score at a half on the 7-inch side. You're going to score at a 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So we're going to 7-inch side, 1/2 inch, rotate, 1/2 inch, rotate, 1/2 inch. Okay, we've done that a couple of times now. Then you're gonna, if you're using score tape, add your score tape. And then what we want to do is cut away those corners, the bulk that's in those corners. So you just kind of angle it towards where the 2 lines intersect, cut it away. Or if you have a better way, just do whatever you prefer. This is my way. I've been doing it like this for a long time. Okay. So what you want to keep in mind, don't make the same mistake I just made. So you want to decide if you want to have this flap come this way. I would prefer to do that, have the folded edge of the flap along the edge of the spine, like that. I'm going to do one there, then I'm going to take the other one and put it down here. So to me, that just makes more sense. So I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So let's fold the 2 shorter sides in, just like we did on the last one. Okay. Let's remove this, the backer of our score tape. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to put down my bead of glue. Now, you don't want to do it in between or underneath this little flap, so just kind of start like where the flap ends. Then take your 4 by 6 piece, and then we are going to line it up on the edges. Okay. And there you have an instant pocket. See, and if you recall, so my glue was like from there to there. So that, I'll just use my ruler. I can, whatever tag I put in goes all the way to the edge of both sides. Alright. So give that a good burnish so that your glue catches. So you're going to do that 2 times. Right, so now you have 2. Bring your book back. So, let's take, so this is 8 inches long, if you remember. So I am going to take my first pocket flap. I'm going to come down probably 1/4 of an inch and come in, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch so that it clears everything. And then I'm going to stick it down. Okay, but what I'm going to do is turn it sideways so that I can see what I'm doing. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to come down about 1/8 of an inch. This is the top of my book. Not 1/8 of an inch, 1/4, maybe 1/2 of an inch. And then come in, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And stick down my flap. Give it a good burnish. Fold it over. Give it a good crease. Okay, so there's the first one. And then the second one, gonna kind of do the same thing. I think I came down, I don't know, that maybe 1/4 of an inch or so. And I'm just gonna line this up pretty close to the fold on the prior one. Well, without going over, without like pushing. Oh, my nail just marked my paper. Without hindering the movement on the first one. So you see, what I need to do is give this a really good crease here because it feels like it wants to fight. Oh, that's because it's not glued down. Okay. Emergency, emergency. Okay. All right. There we go. That's much better. Okay. So that, in a nutshell, is how I put together my book. And then, well, actually, we should probably tighten this one a little bit. I don't know. I may still change my mind and do magnets here. I don't know. It just makes me crazy. Okay. So tighten it up a little bit. And of course I'll cut that down. So the way I close mine is I close this flap first, then these two flaps, and then close it like that. Then I bring the seam binding up along the side. And depending on what I'm going to have on the cover, I may move the tie to over here on the spine. Not sure yet. So yeah. So there, that kind of gives you a view of what it looks like from the inside. There's the top. Really easy to put together.